Have you ever stopped to think about that? Quiet engine running behind the scenes in almost every modern business. The system that makes sure paychecks land, benefits are sorted, and companies, stay on the right side of the law. It's often kind of taken for granted, I think, but it's actually going through this huge change right now. So today, we're taking a deep dive into exactly that, the global payroll and HR solutions and services market. Yeah, our mission here is really to unpack the pretty remarkable growth trends and forecasts we're seeing in this vital sector. We're basing this discussion on excerpts from the Global Payroll and HR Solutions Market Growth to 2033 report. That's from Cognitive Market Research. And we want to get beyond just the big numbers, understand what they really mean for the future of work for enterprises. We're talking complex international payroll, benefits, talent acquisition, engagement, all of it. And just looking at the global picture, wow, it really grabs your attention. This market isn't just growing, it's surging. Back in 2021, it was sitting at roughly $16.99 billion globally, a big number already.
But look ahead, it's expected to jump to over $24 billion by 2025. And then get this, by 2033, it's projected to nearly double its 2021 size. We're talking $48.57 billion. That reflects a compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of over 9%. That's really strong, consistent growth. What does that tell us?
It really is strong. And what's fascinating, is what that global growth rate actually signifies. It speaks volumes about a pretty fundamental re-architecture and how businesses are managing their people. This isn't just about swapping spreadsheets for software anymore, not at all. It's about the digitalization of the entire workforce, right? The growing complexity of managing teams spread all over the globe, different time zones, local laws, and just the absolute need for integrated solutions. I mean, can you imagine trying to manage employees across 5, 10 countries without these systems today? Well, it's basically impossible. So these numbers, they really reflect that essential shift towards smarter, more efficient human capital management. So the question becomes, what does this all mean for businesses globally, and maybe even for your own experience with work? That's what we should dig into.
That's a great point. It's foundational. Okay, let's break it down. Let's zoom into the regions. Starting with North America, still a huge contributor, a real powerhouse in this market. We're seeing growth there from just over $6 billion in 2021, projected to hit more than $16 billion by 2033. The U.S., no surprise, is the main engine, expected to nearly triple its market size. But what's quite interesting, actually, is Canada. It shows even stronger momentum, a higher growth rate, suggesting some serious investment happening there. And Mexico, too, while smaller, is projected to almost triple. That points to a really strong regional uptake. So for a market like North America, which is already pretty mature, what does this kind of continued strong growth tell us? It's not just first-time adoption, right?
Exactly. That's the key distinction here. It's moved beyond just getting the first system in place. Now it's about deepening that integration, optimizing how these systems work together. In mature markets like the US and Canada, businesses are tackling more nuanced HR challenges. Think about complex benefits administration, keeping up with compliance across different states or provinces, and of course, managing hybrid and remote workforces effectively at scale. That's huge now. So it really underscores this ongoing push for greater efficiency, yes, but also more strategic workforce planning, even where digital tools are already common.
Okay, that paints a clearer picture for North America. Let's contrast that with Europe. We're seeing significant expansion there too, growing from over $4 billion in 2021 to projected near $11.5 billion by 2033. WK looks set to nearly triple its market size, and Germany is actually leading the pack in Europe with one of the highest growth rates. That shows a real acceleration in digital HR adoption there. Then you've got strong contributions from France, Italy, Spain, Sweden. They're all adding to this momentum. And even smaller but significant markets like Denmark, Switzerland, Luxembourg, they're all showing steady, substantial growth too. Given Europe's diverse regulations and economic stages, what stands out to you there? Any surprises?
Well, Europe is interesting because you see different dynamics playing out. You have countries like Germany really surging, maybe catching up in some areas, driving for efficiency, and crucially, harmonization across complex labor laws. That's a big deal there. Other mature markets might show more, let's say, measured growth, but it's still consistent. It really highlights how these solutions aren't just about streamlining internal processes. They're critical tools for navigating that patchwork of regulations across the continent. They enable businesses to operate more seamlessly across borders, which is increasingly important.
Right, the cross-border aspect is key. Okay, now, shifting gears. If we're talking dynamism, sheer scale, but let's look at Asia Pacific. You could argue this is the most dynamic growth engine globally right now. It's projected to leap from about $4.6 billion in 2021 to a massive $14.38 billion by 2033.
Yeah.
And the CAGR there. Over 10%. Really robust. China, naturally, is a huge part of that, set to more than triple its market. But look at India. It actually shows the highest growth rate in the whole region, a phenomenal 10.9% plus,
Yeah.
rising to over $2 billion.
Wow.
Yeah. And Japan, South Korea also showing strong, consistent growth.
Mhm.
And beyond those giants, you see significant movement in Australia. Singapore has particularly sharp growth.
Mhm.
And Southeast Asia as a collective showing remarkable expansion too.
Yeah.
What's fueling this explosion in APAC?
It's the combination of scale and speed, isn't it? That's what's so fascinating about APAC. This rapid growth is deeply tied to its emerging economies, these vast, rapidly expanding workforces. And this widespread push for digital transformation that's happening across the board. Many businesses there are actually leapfrogging older systems. They're going straight to the latest cloud-based solutions. That just accelerates the market expansion massively. It's like they're building modern HR infrastructure almost from scratch in some cases to support this incredible economic and workforce growth.
Leapfrogging, that makes sense. Okay, continuing our tour. South America. The market there grew from just under $1 billion in 2021 and is set to nearly triple, hitting around $2.9 billion by 2033. Brazil's leading the charge, also on track to almost triple its market size. And notably, both Argentina and Chile are showing really rapid growth, nearly 10% CAGR each. That's significant.
Very significant.
So what are the drivers behind this expansion in South America?
Well, that growth in South America really points to a growing understanding among businesses there. They're recognizing that modern payroll and HR tools are, frankly, essential for navigating economic complexities and for fostering workforce stability and growth, which is critical in those markets. The drivers include increasing formalization of economies, a greater need for efficiency with diverse workforces, and just the desire to use technology for business agility in markets that can change pretty quickly.
Okay. Next up, the Middle East. This region is projected to grow from around $780 million in 2021 to $2.3 billion by 2033, so another near tripling. Saudi Arabia is growing steadily. The UAE shows very strong growth, over 10% CAGR. And countries like Turkey, Egypt, Qatar, they're all projected to see their markets nearly triple as well. How do we explain this significant investment in HR tech across the Middle East? What's happening there?
I think those numbers strongly reflect the bigger picture of economic diversification that's underway across the Middle East. As these economies shift away from just traditional industries, and they're investing heavily in tech, in new ventures, they simply need robust HR tech to manage the talent, both local and international, that comes with that. It's a clear signal of a maturing, modernizing business landscape. They're focusing on human capital as a real strategic asset now.
Right, aligning HR with broader economic goals. Okay, finally, let's touch on Africa. The market there is climbing from about $425 million in 2021 to $1.24 billion by 2033. South Africa is a clear leader, but Nigeria and the rest of the continent collectively are contributing substantially as well. What does this growth path suggest for digital solutions in Africa?
Africa really represents a region with just immense, largely untapped potential for future growth here. As businesses across the continent continue to scale up, as they formalize, as they embrace digital transformation more broadly, the demand for efficient, compliant, and scalable payroll and HR services is just going to keep rising. There's no doubt it's very much a market poised for foundational expansion. They're building that digital infrastructure needed for future economic development.
Okay. Let's try and pull this all together then. We've seen this remarkable growth story really across every single continent. So what does all this data boil down to for you listening, whether you're leading a business, working in HR, or just trying to understand where work is heading? I mean, it seems pretty clear there's a widespread global imperative to invest in these payroll and HR solutions and services. And it's definitely not slowing down.
Precisely. It really emphasizes that organizations everywhere, whether they're in those mature markets like North America, Europe, or in high-growth economies like APAC, Latin America, they're all making strategic bets on digital payroll and HR platforms. This isn't just some passing trend, it's a fundamental shift. And it's driven by the sheer complexity of managing today's workforce global, often distributed, increasingly tech-savvy. The driving forces are pretty clear, aren't they? Evolving tech demands, the need for data to make decisions, and those ever more complex compliance rules globally. It tells us the demand for solutions that are scalable, secure, automated, and truly integrated. Well, that demand is only going to keep rising.
So the takeaway is clear. This transformation in HR and payroll, it's massive and it's still unfolding. It's not just about cutting checks anymore. It's really about strategic human capital management, using tech to empower people and grow the business. So maybe something to think about is how understanding these shifts could help you anticipate challenges or maybe spot new opportunities in this evolving world of work. How might your own role or your company's strategy need to adapt?
And that brings up another important question, doesn't it? As more and more of these essential, transactional tasks get automated by these sophisticated systems, what new roles, what higher value strategic skills will become really critical for managing human capital effectively going forward? The focus seems bound to shift more from routine admin towards strategic insight, talent development, and really fostering an engaged, productive workforce.
That's the really thought-provoking question to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the global payroll and HR solutions and services market. We hope this has given you a useful shortcut to understanding this critical, often hidden force shaping modern business. Welcome to the deep dive. We sift through stacks of sources, cut through all the noise, and basically hand you the key takeaways. Today we're diving into the payroll and HR solutions and services market. Think of this as your shortcut, really, to understanding how things like automation, compliance, cloud tech, how they're genuinely reshaping work, not just buzzwords.
Absolutely. And it's fascinating because these solutions are becoming so central to how businesses actually operate, It affects everything from efficiency to risk, and maybe most importantly, how companies manage their people, their biggest asset. It's about enabling growth, but also handling all the complexity that comes with it.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. The market's booming. Our sources all agree on that. What are the sort of key forces really pushing this expansion?
Well, first off, there's just this huge demand for workforce automation, pretty much universal. We know it cuts down errors, sure, but the deeper thing emerging is how do companies really use the human potential that automation frees up? Like imagine an HR team, maybe 10 people. They used to spend, say, a third of their week fixing manual payroll errors. Now, suddenly, they're free to focus on development, retention, strategic planning. That's the big shift. It's moving HR from reactive to proactive.
That sounds like a complete no-brainer. But are the sources telling us, like, what percentage of businesses are still struggling with manual stuff? Is it most of them? Or are these solutions still kind of niche?
Oh, good question. The consensus seems to be it's really widespread, a struggle across the board, from tiny startups right up to massive corporations. And that struggle, it's just amplified by the next driver, global expansion and, well, the explosion of remote work. Companies have teams everywhere now. Suddenly you're managing people across 5 time zones, maybe more. Each place has its own tax laws, its own benefits rules. It gets incredibly complex, fast. So these robust integrated systems, they're not a nice to have anymore. They're essential.
Yeah.
And that's why cloud-based payroll and HR is just taking off. It gives you that central control for scattered teams. Absolutely vital today.
Yeah, I hadn't quite grasped the full compliance headache from remote work until looking at this stuff. There like one specific regulation or tax law that really highlights why these global systems are so critical now.
The sources suggest it's less about one single killer regulation and more about the sheer volume and speed of change. Think GDPR in Europe or all the different state-level employment laws popping up in the U.S. It's like trying to hit a moving target, blindfolded. And the target keeps changing shape. So, yeah, no wonder companies are desperate for solutions. Which brings us nicely to the third big driver, regulatory compliance and managing risk. At ever present, a sword of Damocles for businesses, labor laws just keep shifting. Staying compliant is practically a full-time job in itself. And that's where this software becomes, well, not just convenient, but absolutely vital. It has built-in features for these complexities, for reporting, for tax deadlines. For companies, really, these aren't optional extras. They're essential to avoid big fines, legal nightmares. And if you step back, you see how these drivers are all linked right. Remote work makes automated compliance even more critical. It demands those robust global systems. So these solutions aren't just small tweaks. They're fundamentally changing how companies can operate, letting them focus on strategy, not just administrative wrestling.
Okay, so it's really clear why the market's expanding so fast. Automation, global teams, staying legal, massive tailwinds. But nothing's ever that simple, is it? There are always hurdles. And this is where it gets really interesting because some challenges seem to be almost direct results of the innovations themselves. What's the flip side here? What are companies finding tough?
That's a really crucial point because the promise is huge, but the reality of getting there, yeah, it can hit some serious roadblocks. The first one you hear about constantly, cost. High implementation and maintenance costs. These big enterprise-level solutions, they do amazing things, advanced features, sure, but they come with a hefty price tag. You've got the initial software cost, then upgrades, tech support, training for everyone. It adds up. And that financial hit can be really daunting, especially for smaller or medium-sized businesses. Maybe they don't have a big internal IT team.
Right. And then there's the whole data security thing.
Exactly. That's the second major concern. Data security and privacy. I mean, think about what's in these systems. Salaries, social security numbers, private health info, incredibly sensitive stuff. And frankly, today, that data's like gold. Cyber criminals know it. Any breach, you're looking at massive legal trouble, huge reputational damage. It's terrifying for organizations. And that fear, it actually makes some companies hesitate to go fully digital, especially with cloud systems, even with all the benefits. It feels risky.
Yeah, you wouldn't leave the bank vault open.
Precisely. And the third challenge, integration. Specifically, integration with older legacy systems. Look, lots of companies still have outdated software running things, stuff that just doesn't play nicely with modern HR platforms.
Wow.
We call it legacy infrastructure. It's like trying to connect your new smartphone to an old dial-up modem. What happens? You get data stuck in silos, processes are clunky and inefficient, and you end up spending more money on custom fixes just to try and bridge the gap. So without a properly unified system, you just don't get the full value from the new tech. It gets diminished.
That legacy integration point feels really key. Did the sources give any examples of companies doing it well? Or maybe, like, common mistakes to avoid? It feels like the how of integration could kill these projects.
Yeah, the sources really stress that success usually involves taking it step by step, a phased approach, plus strong change management getting people on board, and real commitment from the top leadership. The big pitfall, trying to do everything at once, or just totally underestimating the time and resources needed, especially for moving all that data over. But it also raises that bigger strategic question, doesn't it? How do businesses weigh up the benefits against these pretty significant risks and costs? It forces a hard look at their whole digital transformation plan. There are inherent trade-offs. It's not just buying software. It's changing how you operate, carefully balancing risk and reward.
So, okay, we've got the drivers, we've got the challenges. What does this all mean for where the market's actually heading? Despite those hurdles, things are clearly evolving fast. What are the really exciting trends shaping the future here?
Right. Well, the most obvious trend, the one everyone sees, is the massive shift to cloud-based and SaaS platforms, software as a service. Companies are definitely moving away from software they have to install and manage on their own premises. Why? Because the cloud offers, well, flexibility, scalability, you can access it from anywhere, updates happen automatically, integration is usually smoother. It just makes sense for businesses of pretty much all sizes now.
And beyond just being in the cloud, what about smarter tech?
Yeah, exactly. The next big thing is the integration of AI, artificial intelligence, and people analytics. And when we talk AI here, it's not just like fancy charts. It's things like predictive analytics. Imagine the system telling you, hey, these 15 employees, based on engagement data, performance trends, they have a high risk of leaving in the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Or using sentiment analysis on, say, internal chat data to spot burnout before it craters your retention numbers. This is HR transforming, moving from just looking backwards at what happened to looking forwards, almost like a crystal ball. It stops being just transactional and becomes truly strategic. That's a huge shift.
Wow. Predictive flight risk. That's powerful stuff. What else?
And the third major trend is the move towards a mobile-first and self-service approach. It's gone way past just letting employees check their payslips on their phone. The real shift is mobile becoming the main way employees interact with HR for almost everything. Onboarding, performance reviews, requesting time off, updating details, even career planning. It kind of embeds HR into their daily flow rather than being some separate system they have to log into. And the benefit is twofold, right? Employees like the control and convenience, which boosts satisfaction, and it takes a huge administrative load off the HR teams themselves. So what you're seeing really is these advancements fundamentally redefining how organizations manage their people, their human capital. It's not just about being faster or cheaper, it's about making HR more proactive, more insight-driven, and ultimately more impactful on the business. These tools promise to unlock whole new levels of understanding and engagement within the workforce.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the payroll and HR solutions and services market. We've really unpacked how it's booming, driven by automation, global work, the need for compliance. We've navigated those challenges too, the costs, the security worries, the integration headaches, and we've looked ahead at what's coming, cloud, AI, mobile first. It's clearly a critical space where compliance, cloud tech, and innovation meet.
Yeah, and Maybe a final thought for you to ponder. As this tech gets more sophisticated, how do we maintain that balance between, say, AI-driven efficiency and the crucial human connection in HR? Will AI genuinely enhance the human touch, freeing people up for more meaningful interaction, or could it create new ethical questions around how we manage and understand our workforce? It's definitely worth thinking about how these big shifts might impact your own work, your own career in the coming years.